Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 36. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Friday show. Dave got a busy show today, a special show today. Later on, we'll be joined by our good friend and contributor to Steelers Depot, Dr. Melanie Friedlander, talk JuJu, Ben, and her thoughts on the rest of the Steelers season. But Dave, how you doing? Good to be back with you.
Absolutely, and here we go. Final game before the bye week. It is a Sunday night game. you're ready to stay up even later because that's obviously what we're going to be doing Sunday night. But I guess on the flip side of that is we'll spend most of next week watching a ton of tape and not having to worry about tracking down as many press conferences and all like that either. So hopefully this is a perfect opportunity, I think, for this team to get to 3-3 on Sunday night. And if they do, there's going to be even more optimism, I think, with the fan base overall, and really there should be, because the way this season started with both sides of the football, and even with the win in Week 1 against Buffalo, this thing wasn't looking too great. And, you've gotten some breaks along the way here. You beat a team in Denver that you should have beat at home this past Sunday to get your second win. And now things, as I said in my terrible take yesterday, this is a game that the Steelers should win. This is a game that the Steelers better win on Sunday night against the Seahawks. And if they do, 3-3 going into the bye, get some people healthy there, hey, who knows?
Well said. Yeah, last week against Denver was kind of a must-win game. I think this week will be a season-defining game. Do you want to enter the bye 3-3 and kind of right in the thick of the AFC and AFC North race with a date with Cleveland on the other side of the bye week, or do you go 2-4 and all that kind of feel-good stuff we're talking about now washes away, especially if you lose to Geno Smith, a backup quarterback, and Seattle at your place in prime time? So a season-defining game potentially, to me, taking place this Sunday night.
Yeah, look, I mean, all the optimism that people might have right now, even though, look, this is an out-of-conference game and holds a little less weight overall, but, when you're 2-3 right now and at the bottom of the division, every game holds weight, in my opinion here. So, if they lose this game to the Seahawks, man, going into the bye and coming out of the bye with a game against Cleveland and all, it's going to be hard to be back on, have that glass half full, if you will. So do what you're supposed to do this week and beat the Seahawks, and then get into your bye week, and then let's see what happens.
Well said. Let's talk about who is and may not be available to try to do that against Seattle this Sunday with the Steelers Thursday injury report. Not practicing on Thursday for Pittsburgh. Just two players, one of them expected, JuJu Smith-Schuster, not on IR just yet. That'll happen by Saturday. And so he still has to be listed, though, as a DNP. And an interesting one here, Dave. Cornerback Ahkello Witherspoon with a coach's decision. Now, we don't want to necessarily jump to conclusions here. This could be an excused absence, obviously for personal reasons. But Witherspoon has been active for what I think only one game this year. He's only played a handful of snaps and did not get a hat last week, despite Cam Sutton being down. Carl Joseph getting the nod over him and playing 2 snaps. So you have to wonder, A, the trade does not look good in any form or fashion. That's just, I think, objectively true. But then B, is there any sort of relation between the DNP on Thursday and Witherspoon's lack of a role so far this season?
Boy, if he follows that up with another DNP on Friday, then maybe it's a sign they don't want him to get out there and practice and get hurt, because A, he's going to be off the or A, B, and C, he's going to be off the roster in a couple of days, either via just being cut or traded. Heck, trade him to the Buccaneers. Need some cornerbacks right now. Trade him to the Buccaneers for a bag of footballs or a couple loaves of bread or whatnot. But I know people said that we framed that trade as being a good one. I don't think we necessarily did that as much as we said that, what the deficiencies are with this kid and why they probably made the deal. And the why they made the deal was to add a little bit of depth at the cornerback position, especially when you're staring at guys in James Pierre that really had virtually no experience except for that late game last season, and Justin Lane, who's been a disappointment overall as a former draft pick there, and then obviously they had lost a slot guy in Antoine Brooks during the preseason and all like that as well too. Had kind of question marks of who was going to be that slot player and all. So overall, I mean, to give up a 5th round pick like they did, and basically when we know or have found out since that they were going to cut this guy straight up. I mean, I don't know what your expectations were for Witherspoon, but mine were after him being acquired in the trade it was a break glass in case of emergency type situation there. And even all that said, I think we highlighted enough that this kid wasn't a good enough tackler and probably going to be that was probably going to cost him to get a helmet, once, twice, 3 times, assuming everybody was healthy, because he's just not a special teams asset at all. And I think that's where we're at now. Now, has he failed to pick up some defensive schemes since being added? We obviously don't know. He's only played 4 defensive snaps in one game, I think, since being acquired there. But maybe we're reading into this too much. Maybe he had a doctor's visit or something. But Friday, if he's do not practice on Friday, then you have to wonder if we're going to be talking about him being off the roster come Monday.
Right, yeah, and even if he does return and it goes back to business as normal and usual, I mean, the 5th rounder for him, for a team that's lacking that day 3 draft capital, I mean, unless something, dramatic changes throughout the rest of the season, you're trading a 5th for a guy who's going to play very, very little for you. And I guess maybe in some sense that means the team stayed healthy, but again, Cam Sutton being out last week and Witherspoon still can't get the hat. So even though he was framed as depth, even when that depth is called upon, he is not the next man up. And so that's very disappointing.
Right, and I think a lot of that has to do with his tackling ability or lack thereof.
I think he did improve there, but obviously it's not where the team feels it needs to be.
Yeah, and how many times do we see the Tigers change their stripes drastically? Usually these guys are what they are. Now he's no Gerard Holloman. we got a Gerard Holloman reference today.
He's got to get like a residual check every time we say his name.
Probably. So yeah, some sort of royalties in there. I mean, obviously he wasn't to that degree, but saying he was better was almost something that he almost had to do just in self-defense a lot of times. No, there was a little bit of improvement there, but overall, I think that's one of the main things, at least, that's keeping him from getting a helmet when maybe another cornerback is down, is because just Danny Smith probably don't want him out there.
Right, yeah. So sticking with the Steelers injury report in terms of players who were limited yesterday, 2 wide receivers. That's Chase Claypool with the hamstring and James Washington with the groin. Washington missing last week due to the injury, and Carlos Davis has been limited all week with that knee. He's missed several weeks, and I'm surprised he never landed on IR based on how much time he's missed. And so, we'll see if he can get a hat. We'll see what today's practice is, but obviously he's still working his way back. Everyone else practicing in full, including Cam Sutton, Devin Bush. So those guys, barring any sort of setback, should be able to play in this one. Cam Haywood's had a neck issue, but he's going to be good to go for Sunday versus Seattle.
What do we think the minutia on Saturday is going to look like? Banner to the 53, and JuJu going to IR. That's probably one of them. I guess the only question becomes is what's going to happen with McFarland?
Yeah, I mean, is it a guarantee that Banner is going to be activated this week? They don't have to technically. I mean, it would make sense, but if he's not going to start, then you're not as compelled to do it this week until you have to do it.
Well, I mean, if you just I think I'd want to, if he's healthy enough to at least suit up, then he should be on the 53 just in case somebody trips and falls and twists an ankle on the curb.
It sounds like he was healthy enough last week, though. At least according to him, he's biased, of course. But
right, you probably technically didn't. Who were you going to release at that point to make room for him? I guess.
But could it be McFarland that gets activated? I don't know, but are both of those guys going to get activated?
I would think, because we've seen this team, and I hate to bring back some memories back from when they traded for, who was it, Levi Brown?
Brown.
Yeah,
lasted about 3 warm-up snaps.
Yeah, didn't he do something during warm-ups and biceps or triceps or something like that? And then they were short an offensive lineman, and you just never know what's going to happen on game day. And I would think that they would want to have at least 8 guys, to be able to dress from,
Yeah, well, they have 8 right now.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I suppose if one twisted his ankle coming off the bus, you just dress him and meet your quotas, and obviously he wouldn't play. I live in my fear. I'm living in my fears today.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Banner could get activated. It wouldn't surprise me in the least, but I was sitting there thinking he would do it last week. So I just, I'm in wait and see mode. And I mean, if Banner gets activated, do you think he starts? It kind of sounds like he might not. It might still be Chooks for at least another week.
I if everybody's healthy, I don't think he does. It sounds like either Chooks will. Now, I guess the question becomes, do you consider him an upgrade over Joe Haig or not? That would become, to me, the helmet would come down to Haig or Banner in that situation there. Now,
and I think Haig would get it because he can play left and right tackle. Banner can play right tackle.
All right, so if that's the case, then Banner would just be a healthy scratch. I think at this point now, we've gotten this far into the season right now, Banner might be a scratch or might be might be an inactive for a little bit here.
Yeah, which is disappointing for him and for a team that gave him a fairly larger contract than we expected and anticipated him being the right tackle. So this is just a speculating. He could be the starting right tackle on Sunday night for all we know, but probably not. So we'll see.
Sure. And here's the thing about McFarland: it doesn't make sense to have that many running backs. If it was a swap for McFarland for JuJu on the 53, I mean, somebody's still going to have to be down there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my guess is McFarland doesn't get activated this week, I should say.
That would be my guess as well, too, just because of how they treated Banner this past week. Now, McFarland's going to meet the media later today, so we'll I'm sure he'll be asked questions about whether or not he thinks he'll be active this week or not. So we'll pass that along on SteelersDepot.com later on in the day there. But are you expecting anybody to be elevated from the practice squad? I wouldn't think so, at least, unless, as long as James Washington and Claypool are both ready to go.
Right. As long as those guys are good, then I'm going to guess no. I don't think anyone would be. It just comes down to the IR guys.
Right. I think it just comes down to the 53. Who do you want to carry on the 53 going into this game? And if indeed that's the case, and those are the only moves, then there will probably only be 5 inactives this week. I'm guessing that Carlos Davis will be one of those. Haskins will be one of those. I don't know. Maybe Witherspoon's going off the roster in place of McFarland.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to dress. I don't see that happening with Sutton returning. So at the very least, inactive he'll be.
Right. So we'll know more of that obviously by Saturday night, and then I'll get my projected 5 or 6 inactives up, whatever they are Saturday night. But
we do know a roster move is coming, right? Because JuJu's obviously going to IR, so they're gonna bring somebody back or get somebody on the 53.
I think so. Yeah, most definitely. So I think you're going to see either 1 or 2 moves to the 53, with one of those including JuJu going to IR.
Right. So we'll keep you posted. Find out on Saturday. So Dave. Coordinator, they don't call it coordinator corner anymore, but
you ruined that.
But anyway, the Steelers coordinators, Matt Canada, Keith Butler, spoke on Thursday, as they do every single Thursday. We'll start with Matt Canada. A lot of talk about JuJu, and he and Tomlin and Ben have all talked about how multiple guys will have to replace him. Thought some of the more interesting comments came about Cody White kind of earning his stripes, earning his trust, and a lot of praise for Zach Gentry as well, who's definitely grown and improved, and as I think I mentioned last week, seen a much larger role in this offense week in and week out than I thought he could have been inactive, every single week to start the season, but he's playing, meaningful snaps for this team this year.
Absolutely, that surprised me as well too. And look, they even did some things in that last game against the Broncos early, with purposely putting Gentry as a blocker on that left side to open up the potential tight end screen to him. So they are kind of modeling a few things around him, or at least that position, throughout games there. So he is getting used more. And look, I mean, if you're going to attach a tight end to the end of the line of scrimmage and it not be Pat Freiermuth, I'm all for it being Zach Gentry, even though it's, he's not going to go. He's not George Kittle by any stretch of the imagination, but he's going to give you a lot more out there, I think, as a blocker than you would get out of Eric Ebron and all. So we'll see how this continues. I bet Eric Ebron's not too terribly happy with his usage right now, and we'll see how that plays out. I don't think you're going to trade Eric Ebron or get Eric Ebron off the roster right now, unless you're just out of it here by the time the trade deadline rolls around there, and you just want to recoup a 7th round pick, because you don't save all that much cap space wise with him. And do you really just want to right now trade away just any tight end right now? And I know people say, well, just get rid of him and get Raider up there. We don't care what we save, we don't care what we get back in return. Okay, I get that, but what if you lose one of your predominant pass catcher, or the guy that you hope to see the ball go to more in these coming weeks in Pat Freiermuth? You probably would get to a situation where you probably wish you had Eric Ebron back, saying minus the drops, of course. But barring this if this team stays around, stays in the race for a few more weeks, then I just can't see a reason to trade away Ebron.
Yeah, I mean, I think his value is minimal for how just nondescript the season has been so far. And listen, I don't think he's been very good this season, even as a receiver. But you're not going to lose JuJu and then decide to part ways with Ebron and just start stripping yourself of weapons and options. And I was going to ask you, Dave, do you see minus JuJu this offense running more 2 tight end sets, or how do you see this offense? Will it change in terms of its structure at all, or will it just be more still that same base 11 personnel offense, just with Washington being the new, number 3 receiver on this team?
I could see just an uptick in 2 tight ends, to be honest with you, Alex. With the way that they've been using Gentry and all, I could definitely see it a little bit more. And look, Ben has been at his best in previous, go all the way back to, I always like to reference how I like to go back and watch some of that 2010 tape at times there, because of kind of how they used 2 tight ends and worked around the running game there and those kind of things. Now, will Washington get on the field more here? Absolutely, he will. I'm still kind of dumbfounded, kind of by the comments by Ben about Chase Claypool and the slot and all like that, making it sound like you have to like it's rocket science or something to play in the slot. I went back and I was real passionate about talking about Claypool on Wednesday there. 21% of his snaps, his final 2 seasons at Notre Dame, were played in the slot, Alex. And I think something along the lines of a third of his catches those last 2 seasons came in the slot. So don't tell me Chase Claypool can't play in the slot and be effective. He can. Personally, I think, look, obviously when you have just 2 wide receivers on the field, he's going to be outside, most of the time, obviously, in those kind of situations there. But if you go into 3, if you bring Washington on the field, in whatever circumstances, probably 3rd down, I think Chase belongs in that slot. And I think I really, really do believe that there is an opportunity moving forward here for Chase Claypool to have maybe a little bit bigger game-by-game impact and more receptions per game the more you use him in the slot.
I agree, and I think you will see an uptick there. It sounded like Ben's cold water was 2 parts. One was it's harder to play in the slot, and I agree. I think Claypool can do it. And then 2, it sounded like Ben was also saying that he prefers Claypool on the outside to be that big vertical kind of jump ball receiver that Ben likes to throw to him so often. So I think there were multi parts to Ben's response there. But if you're an 11, someone's going to play in the slot, obviously, and they'll mix and match of course, they've been doing that since 2019, basically. But I mean, either Washington's going to play in the slot, or Claypool's going to play in the slot, or Washington's not going to be on the field, and McLeod's going to be in the slot, so Claypool can stay outside. Put your best guys in the field. That's Johnson, that's Washington, that's Claypool, and Claypool of those three is the best option and fit in the slot.
And what if you when you do have a tight end out there in some situations, and if you know you're going to get an occasional man situation or something, and maybe you're not so much against the Seahawks because they tend to play a lot of more cover 3 type stuff there. But what's wrong with walking Ebron out? If you got him on a linebacker in a man situation or a safety situation, put Ebron out wide. And maybe try to take some shots down the field with him. Take advantage of his athleticism. But back to your original question there, I think we will see a little slight uptick in 12 personnel, and I'm fine by it. And heck, even 22 once they get Anthony McFarland up running. You know, you can have a little bit of fun with that. You can have a little bit of fun still. We haven't seen the Watt Will yet. That's coming. We know it's coming. I don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. And you know, I think you can have some fun that way there. So look, JuJu is a big loss. Make no mistake about it. And really where he's going to be, where his loss, I think, is really going to be felt is third down. You're going to have to find out who is going to be that go-to guy that you can count on third down situations. Because look, bless JuJu, he wasn't being used down the field like he should, and even when he was, Ben didn't hit him. And for the 2 examples against Green Bay there. So once again, it is a brutal loss, but I think they can work their way through this as long as the running game is working the way it worked this past week against the Broncos. If they have a semblance of a running game that they can work around here, I think they can work around not having JuJu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in terms of, replacing JuJu, it'll be, a multi-guy thing. But the one guy who really has a chance to step up, and I think will, is Pat Freiermuth. And that's maybe an obvious answer. But you talk about the big, weighty third down moments. The best hands in this team by far is Pat Freiermuth. And in terms of, potential over-the-middle type routes and guys like that, it is Pat Freiermuth. And Ben had said, he trusts Freiermuth. He actually literally, Ben said, that he needs to get the ball to Freiermuth more of this offense. He needs to get the ball to Pat Freiermuth more. And so Ben will say, he'll compliment guys a lot by saying he believes in them or he thinks they're super talented. He doesn't use the word trust a whole lot with guys, but he says he trusts Freiermuth already as a rookie who's played 5 career games. And so that's a guy that I think can emerge, not because he'll have big gaudy numbers in the box score, but in those big weighty third down got to have it moments. So I think Freiermuth's this is his time to shine, and this team should be finding ways to get him on the field and getting him the ball because he's in a lot of sense the closest thing to JuJu this team has now.
Good point by you. And look, you got a first-round draft pick in Najee Harris that you better put the ball in his hands as often as possible. And your second-round draft pick in Pat Freiermuth. You made those guys 1-2 for a reason. Prove it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And those guys are playing well. It's like they're not playing well. They're warranting more opportunities.
Right. It's not like we're saying, oh man, Freiermuth can't hold on to the football or and look, Najee's finally getting some timing now with the offensive line, and we've seen what he can do out of the backfield. If he would have stayed on that field later in that game against the Broncos, would have been interesting to see if that one maybe not as close as it ended up being there overall. But and on top of everything else, don't go around trying to fix what's not broken right now offensively. Now, there's still a lot of stuff broken offensively, but what I'm getting at here is you ran a lot of RPOs last week, okay? And you used an uptick of emotion a little bit more. Just start building on that stuff, man. The more you can look the same and run different stuff out of it, the deadlier your offense can be. Plain and simple. You can run the same formation, same personnel grouping out there every play, but if you do 80 different things off of that based on what different coverage schemes, then you become that much more tougher of an offense to defend. So don't try to don't go crazy here. Just do what you do best. And right now, I think that's building off these RPOs, and then occasionally your cover one shots down the field to Deontay, setting your kill shots up like you had in the red zone to Claypool against the Broncos. There, you don't have to get all cutesy here. Just run what you run, but execute it well.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, the more that you can make a defense react late because of motions and shifts and things like that, the more you can hold their eyes, make them think, you slow them down. And that's a big win for an offense. Last point on Claypool. Canada was asked about that. Could Claypool play in the slot more, and kind of was asked about Ben's comments about Claypool. And Canada's answer was, quote, again, every game's a little bit different. It's all about matchups, which is nothing new. You guys all know that in football at any level, and certainly at this level, however we get to it, we'll try to find it. So Canada, the king of saying absolutely nothing, but we'll be tracking how much Claypool plays in the slot going forward.
And here's the thing too, and we saw this in the game against the Broncos. You keep the two tight ends out there enough, and you keep a defense in their large personnel package. If you see a certain matchup that you like, then such was the case with the Broncos in getting them in a two-man situation there. You motion Claypool over to the other side of the field there, and you have Claypool on Von Miller. So being able to work a little bit more out of 12 personnel with the two tight end on the field, I think presents opportunities for you to have a little bit better mismatches with guys like Freiermuth, with guys like Ebron, with guys like Claypool, slightly detached from the line.
Yeah, well said. So we'll see what the offense looks like going forward, and certainly something we'll make a point to discuss sometime next week. So anything else from Matt Canada? I think that was kind of the extent of what Canada had to say.
The thing about Cody White that I think is the most interesting is, they do have a lot of trust in him and that kind of thing. And I think even Deontay said in a recent interview that he's kind of a guy that Deontay even goes to and says, okay, what am I supposed to, in other words, Cody White's probably like the Cam Sutton on the offensive side of the ball. The guy knows where everybody's supposed to be on the field. And that's not discrediting Deontay, I don't think, but it's nice to have a guy out there that, especially that low on the depth chart, where other guys can go to and say, hey, where am I at on here? Those kind of things. So I think that probably plays into a lot of the trust that they have with Cody White, because look, he's not a dynamic player overall, but I think from an execution standpoint and an assignment standpoint, he knows where he needs to be on the field. And I think for guys at the bottom of a positional depth chart, especially wide receiver position, that means a lot.
I think so. I think he's a smart guy. He's versatile. He can play all three receiver positions. And when you're a guy like him who's been running scout team for, the last year and a half and, has had just whatever he can do to help, he's been out there doing, whether that's, the X, the Z, the F, whatever scout team thing they're working on. I think you kind of take a lot of reps that way. Me being able to watch from the side and kind of take some of those mental reps and have a different picture probably helps as well. So whoever can step up, I think leadership's going to be a question. This wide receiver room, who's going to step up there and kind of, take the reins that JuJu had, will be something to monitor or something to think about. But how that dynamic in that locker room looks will require all those guys to step up and work together.
Man, if they could they got to keep running the football though. It all comes back to, you can't have Ben throw 30, 40 times a game, maybe 30 max, but you start getting past that and you get what you get at that point. So they've obviously got to run the football, and the more they run the football, and if they're doing it successfully, as we've said all along, that's the only way on a week-to-week basis that I think that you can expect to see positive things out of this. And he was asked about the RPOs. He said Ben seemed pretty pleased with the RPOs. Did that bear out on tape, or and what are the pluses and minuses of that? He says the plus is we won. The minus is a couple of games before we didn't. We lost. It bears out what it is. It's not something Ben has done a lot of in the past. That's a little bit of confirmation in there. Canada doesn't let things slip a lot of times. But I think he did. It's not something that we didn't know. that Ben's probably not not huge on the RPOs, but he's learning to do it. Obviously, it's something that sometimes has been very beneficial for us and for our players, and hopefully we see a little bit more of that, Alex, moving forward with this offense.
Yeah, it's been really, really effective, and I'm glad Canada at least said that, because the first part of that answer was just dreadful. The pluses are we won, the minuses are we lost. Well, thanks. We've all learned a lot more now. I just wish you would say something about that. Like, it's not a state secret to just at least give a basic breakdown of how RPOs, are helpful to an offense.
Right. I mean, it's more of a learning. It's not giving away anything. Not like you develop this RPO system and it's proprietary thing.
Right.
But
yeah, every high school and college in America runs RPOs, but whatever.
And look, I know Bill Belichick's a taboo subject a lot of times, though. But when you ask that guy the right question, maybe not how he's going to defend a certain team or whatnot, but a certain scheme or something like that. Belichick will talk 20 minutes on it and educate I learned more about long snappers a couple weeks ago.
It was so good.
From Bill Belichick and the progression and why teams have long snappers now, and that's just one example. Now, week in, week out, does Belichick's not ask great questions. He shuts everything down. Not very informative, but if you ask him the right questions, man, you can learn a lot from that guy. And this was a perfect opportunity, I think, for Canada to have some sense of personality, at least. He doesn't have any of that. He's very, very buttoned up, I think, as you said.
Yeah, but that Belichick answer on long snapper was 10 minutes long. It was fantastic, and I went down the rabbit hole trying to see what the Steelers' actual first long snapper was. I think it was Kendall Gammett in '92.
That's going to be a great off-season article by you, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can I write it now during the bye week? Because I was.
Sure.
I'll probably wait till the off-season. But flipping over to Keith Butler, and speaking of great quotes and things like that, I think this will go on, as you said, Dave, on your tombstone. Keith Butler. Quote, when they
by the way, when he came down from the mountain with the 10 Commandments and all, I believe it was originally probably 11 commandments, but maybe one of the tablets got a crack in it or whatnot. But I believe this might have been the 11th commandment.
Yeah, I think it was after love thy neighbor. This one came up here. Quote, when they max protect, they ain't going to throw dadgum 5-yard routes. They're going to go downfield on the thing. That is a all-time quote by Keith Butler.
I had to write about that just because of how prolific and how great of a quote for a guy, and you mix in a dadgum in there on top of it. It was a monumental quote, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, offer the context to that quote if you could, please.
The context comes from James Pierre getting beat down the sideline by Cortland Sutton the other day. And look, and this is just film study on our part, and you and I have talked about cornerbacks during the pre-draft process and all about learning to stay in phase and not looking back at the football. Well, look, one of the first things I noted right after that play to Sutton the other day over the top of James Pierre was, man, he looked back early, and in fact it's like the 20-yard line. He's trying to look back and find that ball. It was an easy thing to point out there about why. Now look, does he still give up that long pass? If he doesn't, who knows? But you're not going to run as fast or stay in phase or give yourself an opportunity to play through the catch point pocket if your head's turned around, trying to look back and find the football. Read the clues of the wide receiver, his eyes widening, his hands coming up. That's when you start turning around maybe to try to find the football. Not as early as what Pierre, but anyway, Butler was asked about essentially why is Sutton why is Pierre getting beat so deep over the top so many times this season? And Butler says because he's looking back at the ball too soon. Either he's looking back at the quarterback or he's trying to find the ball in the air. That started it. And then Butler went into talking more. Unfortunately, we've talked about this a few times now. Is Pierre not James Pierre has good qualities to him. He's a lump. He's a mass of clay that's still trying to be formed at this point. He's got to get better at understanding game situations and things that he's likely to see on his end based on what the offense is showing. And that's, I think, is where and that's where when Keith Butler took the opportunity to say, look, when they're max protecting, they aren't going to throw dadgum 5-yard routes. They're going to go down the field on the thing. So in other words, you better make sure that you keep the lid on it over the top there. And on that particular one that Pierre got beat, I believe it's a little bit of a double move on that one on the outside there. So good on Keith, all right, because Keith is good about not really naming names, but naming names. And he did that a couple of times, I think, in this press conference yesterday there. So, look, Pierre, as Alex and I said the other day, 2 incredible plays in that game. Obviously, the last one being the interception in the end zone on a 4th and goal, and the other one that will get washed under the rug that not a lot of people will remember 5 weeks from now was him tackling Javonte Williams at the 2-yard line there. But on the flip side, you can't continue to get beat over the top of your head, especially in certain situations where it calls for you to likely get beat over the top of your head. And I think it's so many words. And Keith said, look, all of us need to make sure we're understanding game situations. And I think that was Keith's message to his defensive backs there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pierre, it's not that you can't look for the football. You just have to know when the right time to do it is. And that's just a bit too early because, as Butler said, when you turn your head, you slow down, you give up space at the top of the route, which is exactly what happened on that play. We noted this in camp. Pierre's a playmaker. He's aggressive. He's got, really aggressive eyes. He wants to go after the football, and I think that's a requirement for cornerbacks in today's NFL to take the football away. But there is, of course, a cost that you're whenever you do gamble and try to go for the football, you're not always going to come away with it, and you will give up the big play sometimes. And so there's a variance to it that's something you have to try to get more consistent at, not being so high variance, of really knowing when to pick and choose your spots. And hopefully that'll come with time and experience, and unfortunately making mistakes, but learning and growing from them. So I even noted that in my training camp report that he has, really aggressive eyes. He can get beat over the top because he's so focused on making the big play, but it does lead to things like the game-winning or game-sealing interception. So I think these things will hopefully just come with time and experience and learning some of the nuances of playing corner.
Butler says he looks back a little bit too quick sometimes at the quarterback. When you're looking back at the quarterback, looking back and trying to see the ball come, physically you have to slow down. We always tell our guys, when they make breaks on you and stuff like that, don't look back at the quarterback. Run him down first, because when he looks back, he being the receiver, he's got to slow down a little bit. We try to catch him during that period of time. Sometimes we tend to look at the quarterback too much. He's not wrong at all there. And I guess this concludes our hate session of James Pierre, I'm sure it will be called.
No, I think we both like Pierre. And listen, I had my terrible take on that on Monday. It's a lonely role to play corner in today's NFL. It is such a tough position to play mentally, and you're just going against top talent. And this week you get greeted by, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So, obviously Pierre might not play as much if Sutton comes back, won't play as much if Sutton comes back. But, it's a tough world. So you just try to get better each week. And I think he will get better. I think he's a talented enough corner that he'll learn from these things.
I think he is very talented, and the more games he plays, and hopefully the less mistakes he makes like this, and more than anything, I think what Butler would like to see him, and all the defensive coaches on that side of football would be him understanding more in certain, be situation aware of what he's likely to see. In other words, increase your odds of how you can defend stuff based on what the opposing offense does. He's probably so worried about getting the call and lining up that he's probably not focusing on sometimes, they're in a max protect situation here, those kind of things. So if he sharpens up those things and understands that, okay, well, they're in max protect, they're probably not going to throw five dadgum 5-yard routes here. maybe that will tend to him getting beat one less time over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you see a team come in heavy like that, and there's only a couple of receivers in the pattern, and a guy's chopping his feet at 5 yards, he's probably not running a 5-yard curl when they're keeping 7 in the block. They're keeping in 7 in the block so they can throw the deep ball. And so those are the things that hopefully will come with time.
All right. Butler also talked, kind of in a didn't point any fingers, but he didn't have to. Talked about the Schobert and Pierre mess up that led to the big play there. I think it's pretty evident what happened on tape there. I think Joe Schobert told us everything that we needed to know right there. But you also wrote up the kind of the philosophical differences that Keith Butler had to say between him and Mike Tomlin that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, this is my favorite answer that Butler gave yesterday because you don't hear about that too much. But this is Butler on kind of his upbringing versus Tomlin's. I'll just read kind of partially the quote here. Quote, I'm an old linebacker who doesn't like anybody to run. I work for a guy who is an old wide receiver who loves to play coverage. I work for him. He doesn't work for me. He's going to do that, and rightfully so with the way the game is now. I'm probably a little bit more overboard trying to stop the run. He's not overboard trying to stop the pass. He just realizes the reality of what it is, and that's a football league now that you've got to stop the passing game. You've got to stop big plays. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where those guys grew up. Butler was a linebacker, obviously a very good one for 10 years in Seattle, and Tom was a receiver who became a secondary coach. And so I think their backgrounds and what they emphasized growing up was a little bit different. And so I think it's just interesting to see that dynamic and how those guys work now.
Absolutely. Far more entertaining. Butler can deliver far more entertaining and educational, I think, at times. Not week in, week out. But I thought yesterday's press conference by Butler was one of the best ones we've had from him in quite some time.
Yeah, I think I know I've knocked him a lot in the past, but I think he's a really smart guy. I think he's really good at what he does in terms of like being a linebackers coach and in the front seven type stuff. My biggest gripes with him, and this answer kind of, I think, backs it up, is that in coverage, it kind of gets worse from there because that isn't necessarily his upbringing or his strong suit, what he's focused on in his career. I think in terms of like run defense and in linebacker blitzes, off-ball blitzes like that, he's excellent. One of the better DCs in football in that. But in coverage, which is the name of the game in today's NFL, is where you kind of get some of that. It's not quite as good, not quite as tight. And so I think that's my biggest issue with Butler. I think this answer, in a sense, kind of confirms it.
Right. Anything coverage related, not so much. But he is good, I think, at creating rush opportunities for in certain situations. And so many words, I think he said that yesterday about, TJ Watt's getting a lot of attention over there. So now they've got to figure out ways when TJ Watt's getting that attention to get someone else singled up and have those guys win those battles.
Yeah, well, you've gotten Devin Bush on block back-to-back weeks for a sack. So, I mean, those are the things that you start working on, and he's always been good at. Butler has been at getting those guys free. Vince Williams was so successful off-ball linebacker as a blitzer for his time in Pittsburgh. So I think Butler schemes those things up exceptionally well.
All right.
Anything else from Butler or Canada? No Danny Smith. We only get Danny Smith whenever apparently I'm being extra good. I only get him like once every 6 weeks or something. But anything else from the OCDC?
No, I don't think so. And Schobert have anything? Edmonds really didn't have much interesting to say. What about Schobert?
Yeah, Schobert talked about playing man coverage on a linebacker, and the first rule of playing man coverage on a linebacker is don't play man coverage for the linebacker, on a receiver specifically. But just talking about in those situations when you do get matched up, because it will happen occasionally. You're not going to be perfect throughout an entire season. You got to know where your help's at, know where your leverage is at, and that's got to be his focus in those moments. So I just thought, interesting insight on some of the X's and O's about playing in those difficult moments.
I like him, and I like Schobert. I really do, and hard not to, knowing his background, knowing how smart he is, and the more comfortable he gets in this defense. I think the question becomes, and I think we got asked this recently from a listener and all like that, is he destined to stay at least one more year? And I think he is on track to do that, quite honestly, so far. So, not an athletic demon by any stretch of the imagination, but I think week by week he's. Do you consider him the quarterback of that defense right now?
I mean, they have rotated him and Bush, but short answer, yes, I do.
I do too, as well. And until I have a reason to think otherwise, and I don't think you can have enough guys like him around right now. Mm-hmm. And assuming if this team can get to the bye week here at 3-3. It's another week underneath his belt to learn in his defense. He coming out of his bye week. This guy should Schobert should know what, everything that's going on at that point there. And I think they're going to need him as a quarterback of the defense moving forward.
Yeah, and I think Kim Haywood made this point, and it's true. Just I think it's partially nature of the position, but the Steelers, I think in particular, because the way the defense is set up, they put so much on those off-ball linebackers. They got to do everything. They got to call the defense. They got to rush the passer. They got to play the run. They got to drop into coverage, man zone, playing every single snap. They don't get time off the way the defensive line does. So I mean, there's a lot on their shoulders, and so I think obviously those guys have to play well, but you have to give them a little bit of grace sometimes because it's hard to be perfect in doing everything on every single snap. For
as bad as the acquisition of Witherspoon was, Schobert was a good one.
Yeah, the inverse. That's a good way to put it. All right, Dave, do you want to get to the preview of the Seahawks game, or actually do you want to talk to Dr. Mel first? What do you want to do here?
Yeah, let's use this opportunity to bring Dr. Mel onto the show again.
Okay, great. So we'll talk to Dr. Mel. You can be sure to follow her on Twitter @GirlSurgeon. You can always follow her articles, most of them entitled "The Doctor is In" on Steelers Depot. Had one on JuJu earlier this week about why he should be 100% for 2022 and explaining and breaking down his shoulder injury. And so we talked with Dr. Mel about JuJu, Ben, and the Steelers' future in 2021. So we'll take a break and come back with Dr. Melanie Friedlander. And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. And as promised, the best third of the Steelers Depot podcast with us now, very gracious to take time out of her vacation, of all things, Dr. Melanie Friedlander here to talk with us. Dr. Mel, thank you so much for being here. It should just be Mel. I think you're off the clock. It's just an informal Mel. How you doing?
I am refreshed and relaxed and so happy to be with you.
Good. We are happy that you found the time to join us. If you haven't followed Mel on Twitter yet, please do so. It's @GirlSurgeon. Be sure to shout her out and thank her for her time and certainly her expertise. So just about 15, 20 minutes we'll take of your time here, Mel. And I just want to start off here with obviously the most pressing and relevant news and injury information. JuJu Smith-Schuster out for the season with a shoulder injury suffered in Week 5 against Denver. I know you wrote a great post about it on Steelers Depot and how he should be 100% recovered for next season. But can you just kind of, in as layman terms as possible, kind of walk us through what the injury is and what makes it so severe? JuJu thought, and he said this, that he thought he could just kind of pop his shoulder back in, be out 2 weeks, and then come back. Obviously not the case. So what specifically makes this injury so serious?
So I'm not sure it's serious so much as it's repetitive if you don't fix it. That's the problem. I mean, we all saw him howling in pain on the sideline, and that's because they couldn't get his shoulder in. And my presumption is that the reason he went to the hospital was so that they could give him some sedation, relax him, relax the muscles, and pop his shoulder back in. So when Ian Rappaport reported that he had surgery that night, I think there was a little confusion due to the fact that he probably just had the procedure of having the shoulder reduced, which is basically popping the humeral head, which is the upper arm bone, back into the socket of the shoulder. And you saw him in a sling the following night at his foundation event just to hold the arm in place. That's the problem with these types of injuries. When you have shoulder instability like this, there's such a high percentage of it happening again and again.
Okay.
I think it was Ian Rappaport who also mentioned that he likely had a labral tear. And the labrum is a very thick cartilage that lines the socket of the shoulder joint. You also have one in the hip. If you recall, Pat Freiermuth had a labral tear. I believe it was his final year at Penn State, and he had surgery to repair that. His tear was actually a little bit different. So with JuJu, probably what happened was when the shoulder was forced out of the joint, the labrum, which is this layer of cartilage that lines the socket, tore away from the bone. And so you would have to have a significant amount of inactivity to allow that labrum to heal back to the bone, and it might not do it properly anyway. So he would have to be in a sling, he would lose muscle mass, and even then the labrum might not heal properly. So the next time he goes out to play and lands on that arm, his shoulder could pop out again. So when they say it was serious, I think that was a little bit of an overcall. I think the decision for surgery was just that he wasn't likely to have a successful season without surgery anyway. Okay, and I think that's what was so tough for JuJu, because he felt like, oh, they're going to pop my shoulder back in. I'll be out with my guys in a week.
Yeah, and obviously not the case. So, I mean, obviously it sounds like surgery was the correct decision for the long-term health of him. Just theoretically, had they not elected surgery, could he have returned at some point this season? What would be the timetable on that if you just try to let it heal on its own without surgery?
Really fast, actually. All of the NFL databases show that with a subluxation, which is a partial dislocation, there's 0 missed time typically. And with a true shoulder dislocation, where the shoulder actually pops out, the return to play is anywhere from 0 to 3 weeks. And there are multiple studies of NFL players that show that, including wide receivers. So he could have been back in as little as 3 weeks. The problem is he could have been out again a week later. And it becomes a revolving door of, trying to keep the roster full. So I don't think the team made the decision on their own behalf. I think they made it for his behalf.
Right.
Dr. Mel, thank you. I believe it's like 1 a.m. over there where you are in Spain. It means a lot to us that you take time and stay up that late to talk to us. And with you being up so late and with Alex being up so late, I think it's appropriate that we had the groin talk with Alex, Dr. Mel.
It's 7:15 here. Just for the
record. I think Alex is old enough for us to have the groin talk with him now, Dr. Mel.
We could just tell him to cover his ears.
We laugh here, but it's been a big topic of conversation. Obviously, from the start of this season on, so many players. We affectionately call it the groin club of Pittsburgh now. We've seen so many of these players deal with this now, and Devin Bush, I think, is the latest one, even though it looks like he's going to be able to play through it to reestablish his membership into groin club of Pittsburgh. But in all seriousness, I think the thing that we hear the most, especially when you see a run of soft tissue injuries, and particularly one that's located on one specific part of the body, such as a groin. Your average fan, your listeners, even some of your more educated fans will say, "What's going on here? Why is this so chronic to the Steelers? Is the training staff not doing their job? Is there anything that the Steelers are doing or not doing that is contributing to this, or is it just?" It's just the injury of the year, if you will, and it's just bad luck. So set us straight on all that. Where you chime in on all these groin injuries, and is this something that can be prevented? Is somebody doing something wrong? What's going on?
Sometimes coincidences are nothing more than that. And I know it feels like there's a conspiracy going on here, that we have so many groin injuries, particularly on the defense. I think it's just a run of bad luck, honestly. I mean, there's actually been large reviews in the medical literature on groin injuries in professional athletes, NFL players, soccer players, et cetera. And the only risk factor they've identified is a decreased range of motion. And so the instant reaction to that from fans would be like, well, they need to be in ballet class with Lynn Swann. Pump the brakes. They're talking about a range of motion that's only 85% of normal. I guarantee you the players on the Steelers have better hip range of motion than that. So I don't think it's a conditioning issue. An overwhelming majority of groin injuries are a result of running while cutting and twisting. And it's the adductor or the adductor longus muscle that's typically involved, which inserts on the pubic bone and then runs down the thigh. And so a tear in that muscle can give pain in the groin. So I'd love to say that this was a preventable issue, because then we could actually identify the problem with the trainers or the problem with the training program. I really don't think that's the case. The only possible thing that I could look at to say, okay, this is what's different now versus then, is that they probably are doing less contact practices based on the CBA. Could that be a contributing factor? Maybe, but probably not. I mean, these are professional athletes who are in the gym every day and working out hard, and I don't think you can really fault the fitness of TJ Watt or Devin Bush or Joe Hayden. I mean, we know that these guys are working out on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there's anything you can point to say that's why this happened. I think it's an unfortunate injury that occurs in football.
And, the Steelers have had the same, conditioning and training staff, it seems like, forever. So you would think that they wouldn't all of a sudden, slack in certain areas like that. I'm with you, but, for us to say something like, man, it's just bad luck. It sounds. People tend to believe it more when it comes out of like your mouth and all like that. So that's that's basically where that's basically where you come in on this, right? I mean, it's just a string of bad luck, and it's the injury de jour, if you will.
Well, I hope it's nothing more than a groin strain for all of these players. I mean, it's unsatisfying to say it's just unfortunate luck, but I really do think that's the case. Hopefully none of these, knock wood, are an actual sports hernia or what we call athletic pubalgia. People may remember that Bud Dupree had that coming into his second season with the Steelers because that actually requires surgery and a 3-month recovery. I don't think any of these players are dealing with that based on how quickly they've returned to practice and the few setbacks we've seen.
Right, yeah, Devin Bush been full of practice, so it seems like it's more of a minor thing than something like Dupree had. Kind of sticking along those lines, though, we saw Najee Harris go down with cramping, couldn't finish out the Broncos game, unfortunately, for him and for the Steelers last week. Mike Tomlin's answer to that was just basically, drink more high-quality H2O. Is there anything special that they can do to try to eliminate or reduce the odds of cramping, or is it one of those things where it just happens as well?
Electrolytes.
Yeah. Electrolytes. I mean,
it's what plants crave. Go ahead.
We all remember our unfortunate linebacker incident in Miami in the heat, right?
Lawrence Timmons.
Yeah, poor guy. It really is just a matter of hydration and electrolytes. And, I don't want to harp on the fact that he's playing all the snaps, but how much was the defense on the field in the first half of the game? Sure. So he was out there a lot. He's probably coming back to the sidelines and, looking at the plays and forgetting to drink. I mean, this is probably what we call a rookie mistake. So I suspect, as you mentioned in the podcast, that someone will be forcefully handing him a water bottle during the game next week.
I bet. Are there certain players and just bodies that are more prone to cramping? And if so, is there any reason for that?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, with these players and the muscle mass they have, they're more likely to experience that problem than you or I. Right. But I don't think it's one position over another.
Okay, I got you. I just had one other quick question on JuJu. I know whenever guys have, ACL tears, for example, their surgeries can be a bit delayed because they got to wait for swelling to go down. Was there any reason for the couple-day lag between the injury and the surgery for JuJu? Was that because they had to reduce the shoulder or because they wanted second and third opinions on that? Was there any reason why there was that couple-day in-between time?
No, actually, he mentioned that he didn't get a second opinion. So I honestly think it was because of his foundation event.
Okay, so had he had that, then I guess he couldn't have attended it. Okay, so that makes sense.
Because his surgery was that day.
If this team were to somehow make a playoff run and go deep into the playoffs, would that timetable change at all with him, or is this basically something that's got to heal up for a good 10 months, 9 months, or what have you?
I don't know. He could be back if they can make a deep run. It's basically about 4 to 6 weeks for the labrum to actually heal to the bone, that cushion of cartilage that lines the socket, and then about another 4 to 6 weeks for it to get to near full strength. So we're talking about 12 weeks. Basically, 3 months.
All right, then he would obviously need to start his conditioning. I'm sure he could still do his running and some of that stuff right now, and obviously couldn't do upper body kind of stuff, especially with that one shoulder there. So you would say there is an outside chance that the Steelers were to make a deep run into this thing that potentially he could play.
I'm going to get nailed by the Twitter sphere for this. I would say there's a higher chance of JuJu performing well in the Super Bowl than of the Steelers being in the Super Bowl.
Oh, that hurts, Mel. But you're saying there is a chance. So you're saying there is a chance.
I hear you.
There's a chance for both.
Right.
There's a chance for both. So as we sit here today, the Steelers are not eliminated. And as we sit here today, JuJu could be fully recovered by that time. And even at 80%, I would take him. He would be a solid contributor. So I don't think that it's impossible that he could play this season if the team can go deep in the playoffs.
You were obviously, we talked to you right before the season started, and you were a lot more optimistic on this season than both Alex and I were. Where are you from? And you obviously look, you stayed in as clued in as the rest of us here, and we obviously send you all 22 stuff to watch whenever you get a chance to, and you see the stats, you listen to the podcast. Where are you on this team now as they try to get to 3-3 on Sunday night against the Seahawks?
So wait a minute. You and Alex have been so firm on not changing your preseason predictions because they're preseason predictions, and now you want me to check in on mine?
No, we want to know where you are. Just where you.
Could be the same.
It might be the same. Look, I mean, Alex and I, or at least I tell you, I'm still in the same boat. I still think that this team has the possibility to go 9-8 or 8-9, right around in there. And depending on how this crazy AFC North shakes out, there's a slim chance that they make it in still. Now, look, if they don't win the winnable game this Sunday, because look, they've got a break here, they've got to take advantage of it Sunday night. It's a game they should win. It's a game they better win against the Seahawks. You get to 3-3, you get to the bye week, you get some of these bodies healthy and all. You beat the Browns and you beat the Bears those next 2 weeks. A lot of people are going to be looking at this team maybe a little bit different going into the tougher part of their schedule there. But even so, I am still been 9-8 guy, all along here.
Well, I started at 11-6, but I also had the Steelers going into the bye at 4-2 or 3-3. I was really torn on the Seahawks game because they've just been a hard matchup for the Steelers in the past. So
But you agree?
We knew that this was going to be a slow start for the offensive line, and I would never have predicted that Ben would have been annihilated this badly by now, and that makes me a little more skeptical in terms of my predictions. But you have seen them progress, and you have seen the running game grow and mature as, Najee gets to understand the game a little better, and the offensive line gets, their cohesiveness. And this was never going to be a pretty offensive start to the season. We knew that. So it's been, growing pains for sure, but I certainly didn't have them 6-0 going into the bye. And so I'm still, I'm a fangirl. I'm still optimistic. And so I'm sticking with my 11-6 because I see this team gaining momentum. And here's the thing. And this is, a completely intangible positive, but this team is not downtrodden. And I mentioned this, I think, in one of my terrible takes a few weeks ago. With all the schedule changes last year and the pandemic and the daily testing and all of the extra burden on the team, they were literally beat down by November of last year. They lost their swagger. They lost their mojo. They just weren't having any fun anymore. And that's when they started to lose. And I think that's a really important factor. And when you look at them now, there has never once been finger pointing. They all take blame whether they should or not. They all believe in each other. They all complement each other. And the defense and the offense clearly are playing for each other and picking up the slack when one side is lagging. I think this team really believes in themselves. And that's something that you can't make up for that if it's not there. And you've got a coach that also believes in them. And if there's anyone that can get this team to 11-6, I do believe it's Mike Tomlin. I'm sticking with my optimism.
And you agree that this, with all that's happened with Russell Wilson and, and the Seahawks and, just how the Steelers have played against the Broncos. This is a game, you agree that this is a game Sunday night that they should win and they better win, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Alex?
It's a good thing for Seattle that Chris Carson did not practice today. It's a good thing for Pittsburgh, I should say, that Chris Carson did not practice. They could be without, obviously, their quarterback and their running back. I just have one more question for you, Mel, and you kind of touched on it in your last answer. How scared are you that Ben will not be able to hold up the rest of the way? Because he's already taken a beating so far, as you mentioned. I'm sure he's still dealing with those injuries, right? That pec injury did not magically go away. I'm sure that hip is still probably pretty bruised up. Do you think he can survive, where he's at now and where he will be the rest of the season?
I jokingly tweeted that image of the Black Knight from Monty Python a couple weeks ago, where his arm is taken off, and he's like, "Oh,
just a flesh wound."
I mean, remember that San Francisco game where his ankle was so badly sprained that he could barely walk, and he still played the whole thing. I mean, I hope we don't get to that, but he's never ever going to take a week off until he can't get off the bench. I hope we don't get to that point, but he's played through worse. And yeah, he's not a mobile quarterback, as everybody likes to remind us. And the knees aren't going to get any better than they are now. And I'm sure he's got significant arthritis. But none of the injuries he has are injuries that will keep him off the field. And as the offensive line improves, hopefully he'll take fewer sacks. I absolutely see him making it through the season. I don't really have any concerns about that.
Dr. Mel.
Barring a significant injury that can't be prevented.
Right,
sure.
Right. Dr. Mel, The Jerk, Cool Hand Luke, Bull Durham. What are some movies that Alex is really missing out on? Spinal Tap. I mean, we got to get him in front of some movies here.
Alex, have you not seen Spinal Tap?
I didn't know that was a movie. I thought that was a band. Is that not a band?
Well, it is.
Is it a band? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a documentary.
It's a mockumentary. That's one way to call it. It's an old Rob Reiner film and all. Definitely a must see. But I mean, The Jerk, Cool Hand Luke. What else is he missing out on, Dr. Mel? And this is the part where I say that Dr. Mel's really not my age, but.
I'm older than you.
I know. Hey, you said it, not me. I was trying to protect you there, but go ahead.
No, I'm okay with my age. There is a consideration that, during the Steelers Depot retreat during the Shrine Bowl that we just lock Alex in a room until he's watched a couple of these.
Well, he won't be out. He's going to the Senior Bowl. That's the thing. So it's going to be he's not coming to Vegas. We're probably going to send him to Mobile, and for those that don't know, Dr. Mel's going to be coming out to Vegas for the East-West Shrine game. Josh Carney's going to come out for the East-West Shrine game, and I think we're going to try to have one more on staff out here as well too. So excited about Dr. Mel. I think this will be your first college all-star game, will it not, Dr. Mel?
It will. I'm totally psyched for it.
All right, good deal. All right, Alex, you want to wrap her up? Yep. And Alex,
I just want to add one thing.
Go ahead.
I just want to add one thing. I just want to add the replacements to Alex's lists of movies that must be seen.
I've seen The Replacements. It's one of my favorite movies. I've only seen like 4 of them, but
okay.
It's a great football movie.
Okay, well then we can still be friends.
Okay, all right. Thank goodness.
All right, Alex, do you have any more groin questions you would like us to answer for you? You good?
I came in with 0, and I will leave with 0 groin questions for you guys. But Dr. Mel, thank you so much as always. Appreciate your time. I know you're staying up late there on your vacation, no less. So be sure to follow her at Girl Surgeon. And thank you so much, Mel. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you so much. So much fun talking to you guys, as always.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Dr. Melanie Friedlander. Be sure to follow her if you're not already on Twitter at Girl Surgeon, and just appreciate her time and on vacation, no less. She's like Troy Polamalu in that Head and Shoulders commercial. Never not working. It's Dr. Melanie Friedlander. We thank her for her time.
Yeah, what state is Spain in?
I don't even know how to attack that one. What are you? You're breaking my brain over here.
Oh, it was 1:30 in the morning over in whatever state she was. I don't know what time zone that is, but anyway, such a great ad. Everybody always looks. I know a lot of people. It's a special treat for a lot of people for when we get her on, and it's unfortunate situations a lot of times because we're talking about injuries and all like that. But she's really become a good friend of myself and Alex's, and once again, she'll be one of the several people that we have out in Las Vegas later on or after this season covering the East-West Shrine game, and I know she's super excited about that.
Yep, and so are we. All right, Dave, let's transition to previewing this Week 6 all-important game, primetime game, Sunday night against the Seattle Seahawks without Russell Wilson, starting Geno Smith, the veteran. Pittsburgh has faced him in a starter capacity once back in, I think, 2013 against the Jets. Pittsburgh won that game. Let's hope they do the same this time around. So what are you looking for when you evaluate the Seahawks offense?
Offensively, I don't think they're going to change their stripes too terribly much with in between what they like to do with Russell Wilson when he was back there. I think you're going to see kind of a moving pocket sometimes when it comes to Geno, because one thing I think that stuck out with Russell Wilson, or has over the years, is how he's not afraid to take to have the moving pocket, the rollouts to the outside, those kind of things there, and kind of work maybe like a levels concept on one side of the field or the other one. Now, obviously, one of the big things that they lose with not having Russell Wilson is the ability to extend the play, and that's huge when it comes. Geno's not that guy. Now, Geno will still take off with the football, but I'm willing to bet that they're not wanting their backup now to have the ability, to maybe take a shot and get knocked out of the game. This is a Geno Smith that's started one game since 2017. I think something to the tune of 29 pass attempts, 25 pass attempts, something along those lines since 2017 in regular season play, and a good chunk of those came the other night against the Rams on top of it. Now, kudos to Geno Smith in that long drive that he that he orchestrated, against the Rams, coming in in relief of Russell Wilson. That touchdown should not have happened, though. Cornerback really out of position in that situation there. But look, that's not his fault. He made plays when he needed to make plays. They are probably going to want to try to lean on running the football, at least early in this game. However, it's interesting to see what happens with Chris Carson in that neck injury. Has not practiced those first 2 days. Certainly not trending in the right direction with him. Alex Collins, we should know a little bit about, right? Because he played for the Ravens a little bit in there, but he's not Chris Carson. I'll tell you that. And I think you're going to see some heavier looks by them, some two tight end stuff. I think you're going to see, obviously, them try to lull you to sleep with guys like Lockett and Metcalf, and then try to shot you down the field. It seems like everything tries to build offensively with them, with setting up stuff. They do like to run some levels concepts, I think, on top of it there. So my biggest concern is Geno Smith out of the pocket on some design rolls and some really, really easy throws that they set up for him, and then over the top stuff to just fantastic receivers in a duo in Lockett and Metcalf.
Yeah, it's really just interesting to see how much their offense will change, obviously, with that Russell Wilson, because they've never had to deal with that before. Russell Wilson this game Sunday will be the first game he's ever missed. The last game Seattle played without Wilson starting a quarterback was January 1st, 2012, the Week 17 finale of the 2011 season, before Wilson, was in the league. He was still at Wisconsin, and so you just don't quite know what to expect. But I think the hallmark of the Seahawks offense, it's kind of like the Chargers, kind of like the Saints, the Joe Lombardi style of a lot of routes over the middle of the field, a lot of crosses, a lot of benders by the slot and slant routes and things like that. So, they have some really talented receivers. They run more 12 personnel than a lot of teams. They put multiple tight ends out there. So they have two really good receivers in Lockett and Metcalf, and then they kind of run tight ends behind those guys. But, you're just trying to see how much this offense will change with Geno. I will say they ran the read option with Geno twice, even though coming in relief for Wilson last week, even though he was kind of the last guy they had. So, I got to be careful of that. But the one thing I noticed on tape with Geno Smith in particular was he bails on clean pockets a lot. He rolls to his right a ton. Once left, 2.5, 3 seconds, that internal clock goes off. Even if he's still protected well, he will just start floating and running to his right. So I wonder if you can influence that a bit. When they run empty, they don't block it up well and empty. I would run overload blitzes and check the blitzes against empty. And then the big thing is, and this is true of any week, but especially this week, is, as you said, Dave, don't give up the big play, because the only way Seattle, I think, wins this game is if they create big plays, defensively turnovers, offensively big chunk catches. They're not going to, nickel and dime you the way that Wilson is capable of doing. So keep a lid on things. That run game has not been super strong, especially with Carson's injury. I would blitz a little bit more in this game, and then, just not get beat deep.
That's what I was going to say as well, too. I would, and I'd play more zone in this, too.
Yeah,
I don't want Lockett and Metcalf running away from people. So should my rush
that's
not
fair.
get home? So I think I would play more zone in this, but I would mix in some zone blitzes in there because I'm with you on Geno Smith. The least little sign of problems in that pocket, he's out of there.
Yeah.
And now Russell Wilson could extend the play. Geno Smith, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think Smith has enough mobility to like extend the play, but he's not obviously the playmaker or the accuracy
Right.
or anything like that. Like he's going to get himself into a lot of trouble, and he's the way that Wilson kind of worked himself out of trouble after he gets himself into trouble. So yeah, if you can run some blitzes to his left and get him to kind of flush to the right and contain that side, then I think you can really take away half the field and put him in some really bad situations.
Yeah, I agree, and just don't give up the chunks, man. Don't give up the over the head stuff or the long 40, 50-yard runs, those kind of things. Just keep everything in front of you and make this team work the football down the field. Because once again, I thought Geno Smith did a great job on that drive late against the Rams. Now, how much of that was kind of a prevent? Let's try not to get beat deep type of situation because of the scoreboard, the time, the situation. I think that needs to be factored in there as well too. But it was still a 90-something yard drive, right? And
yeah, 98.
And you need to be congratulated for that. But if you don't give up the big plays in this and consistently make a guy like Geno go 75 yards, I don't think they'd be able to do it. And you can't. I mean, guys like Metcalf and Lockett, how many times have we seen those guys, catching those, balls way more than 20 yards down the field, and they ended up in the end zone? That's where they're deadliest here. And I don't think that their offense is built to score a lot of points overall, as it is. So you just can't give them the big plays here. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, we talked about some things that help kind of the Steelers offense being RPOs. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a chunk of RPOs with Seattle this week to kind of make things maybe a little bit easier on Geno.
Yeah, they run a good bit of it. They're running it even with Russell Wilson. I would say on Lockett and Metcalf, there are 6 receivers in the NFL this season, Dave, that have 25-plus receptions and 15-plus yards per catch, and Lockett and Metcalf are 2 of them. So they have 2 of the 6. So those guys are high volume and big play capable, obviously. And it's not just going deep. It's running the slant and yards after the catch, because Metcalf is just impossible to bring down. So you better be willing to tackle both of those guys, because they'll hurt you if you don't.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, let's switch over to the Seahawks defense, and it's not been a great unit. There's some talent there. There's some individual talented guys, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. Mike Tomlin talked him up this week, but you should be able to run on these guys. Seattle's given up 113 yards on the ground in all 5 of their games this year, statistically one of the worst run defenses in football. So Pittsburgh should, and better, as you said throughout the show, throughout the week, carry over the success it had on the ground last week into Sunday night.
Man, I tell you what, Alex, if this Steelers offense can't move the football on this Seahawks defense, makes you wonder who they will be able to move the football on. Successful run rate of, I think, over 55%. That they're allowing to opposing running backs so far this season through their first 5 games. And then an adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat on the defensive side of football of like 7.9. So not only are they not good against the run, they're not good against the pass either. All right. Now, are they statistically the worst defense in football? No, but they're pretty damn close. And when you have a running back and we see the uptick in success that the Steelers run game has had, they should be able to run the football in this game. And when they throw, if they stick to, if they don't try to do too much, and if Ben doesn't make mistakes with the football, and let's face it, he got away with a couple of them against Denver, albeit, one, maybe not so much his fault there. But if you don't give the Seahawks easy turnovers, strip sacks like we saw, throwing the ball right to him as Ben's done a couple of times, then you ought to be able to move the football. as a Steelers fan, even though this offense has not been lights out, this season, it should be a huge disappointment if they're not able to move the football consistently on the Seahawks defense, both on the ground and through the air.
Yeah, I think in terms of the run game, you can use motion a lot to move these linebackers. They're more of a fast flow, aggressive front, both the defensive line and the linebackers. So I think you can really utilize some of that jet motion and things like that to get those guys out of a gap or out of a step, out of position. And then I think some of the gap schemes, some of the power runs. I do a lot of pulling with Kevin Dodson, maybe a little bit of Trey Turner as well, because that seems to be more effective than the zone game. When you do run zone game, I think that kind of backside bend read kind of, to the opposite way of where things are going for the back has been usually the best path to success on those drone runs, because Seattle really wants to take away the front side and they're a fast flow, kind of more, one gapping attacking type of a defense. And so, bottom line is, though, however you want to talk about running the football, you should have success. You better have success. And if you don't, then that's going to be a massive disappointment and could drop this team to 2-4. So running the football efficiently, effectively, staying on schedule, on script, as this team did against Denver. They should be able to do it again. We'll see if they actually can, though.
Absolutely.
And then in the secondary, it's just kind of more of – it's not the old school Legion of Boom kind of like country classic cover 3 where just like a bunch of spot drops and talent kind of wins out for him. But it's a zone defense overall. They still play a lot of cover 3, a decent amount of cover 2. They don't man up a ton. When they do, it's usually because they're sending pressure, and so they kind of have to man up. They're just short guys to cover windows in zone. But when you talk about the secondary, you watch out for Jamal Adams as a blitzer. He's not blitzed as much this year, as Greg Bell said on Wednesday's show, but still a big threat. So how well does Najee Harris do in pass pro? What he does in pass pro could be just as important as what he does as an actual runner in this game. So just watching out for that occasional boundary side safety blitz, usually by Jamal Adams, and then just trying to attack that zone. That's usually pretty soft, kind of the approach in this one.
Absolutely. Look, and I think you can attack Jamal Adams in coverage too.
Yeah, he's certainly not been praised for his ability to cover.
Right, and you do have to know where he is at all times on the field for sure, because that guy can change the game in a heartbeat. There, gets after the quarterback really, really well. Bobby Wagner's a little dinged up for them.
Is it? How do you know that?
Heading into this game there. He's been on the injury report for them. Big playmaker in the middle of that defense. I kind of get the sense that he is going to play still, but that is a guy that's not going to be 100%. Their corners have been kind of abysmal. I would think they would go after Jones a little bit, if at all possible in this game on top of it. So not a lot of look. This isn't the Legion of Boom, but they are going to play what they're probably going to play a lot of zone cover 3, a lot of traditional cover 3 stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the way that I've seen on tape. It's still kind of that general 3 deep shell. One guy to watch out for, we talk about Jamal Adams a lot, and rightfully so, but Quandre Diggs is playing great for him, number 6. So he's got a pick in back-to-back weeks. So you talk about some of the coverage stuff, that's not Adams' strong suit, but Diggs can really cover well. I think he was a mistake for Detroit to trade him away, and he's thriving over there in Seattle. So there's one guy to really watch that no one talks about too much. I'd probably say it's number 6, Quandre Diggs. But attack those corners. They've had such issues with corners. They just released Trey Flowers. They traded Witherspoon. I think you can definitely win those one-on-one matchups on the outside with Johnson and Claypool.
Their leading sacker is the Tennessee kid, right?
Yeah, Darrell Taylor's got 4 of them. Only Seahawks with more than 1 sack. He's playing really good for him.
Right, and they haven't done a great job of taking the football away so far either, I don't think. So just don't make it easy on them. And once again, statistically and tape-wise, everything lines up with the Steelers being able to move the football in all areas, running the football. So I would like to see the Steelers come out and try to get this running game going early. Maybe some 2 tight end stuff and all like that, and heavy RPOs, and really make this defense work in zone situations. And the occasion that you get them in some man type situation, you need to take the shots at them there. So you're looking at this game, looking ahead of this game, and thinking what the Steelers were going to encounter in this game versus what they're going to encounter now. I think I had this as a potential L for the Steelers, whereas right now, once again, as I said in my terrible take yesterday, this is a game that they should win. This is a game that they better win.
Yeah, which is why those preseason predictions I take with a grain of salt, and I say with a grain of salt because you thought you're facing
a lot
Russell
can
Wilson.
change. Yeah, a lot can change.
Yeah, a lot can and a lot does change. So, all right, Dave, anything else to add on Seattle? I think we covered that pretty well. But certainly Pittsburgh in position to win, but they've been down that road before against even backup quarterbacks and haven't always won. So you want to make sure you get this victory secured, obviously.
I think the only way you do it is you give up the home run. The only way you lose this game is a couple of unfortunate turnovers, mistakes, huge mistakes, ball security wise, and then on the flip side, giving up those big plays. Because make no mistake about it, and I know it's Geno Smith and all, but Metcalf and Lockett can burn you in a heartbeat. They can flip the field in a heartbeat, and that's how you lose that game against the Seahawks on Sunday night is chunk plays and turning the football over. Not that that's not the recipe for every game, but if you look back at this thing, if the Seahawks are +2 or better in the talk stat, that's how you lost this game.
For sure. I'll make one prediction here, and it probably doesn't qualify as your weekly bold prediction of the week, but I'll stick my neck out here. Kind of a big game for TJ Watt's coming, just because Geno Smith rolls to his right so much. Brandon Shaw at right tackle's a big guy. I think Watt's going to be able to handle him easily. So I'm going to say 3 sacks for TJ Watt in this game.
All right. I like it.
Smith and the Seattle Seahawks.
I like it. I think this is a game, too, where you can play Edmonds down in the box more. I'm going to say Edmonds leads the team in tackles in this game.
Okay. I like it. Any interceptions? Would you go that far or no? Too far to go for a throw?
I think I'm pushing it too much when it comes there. I will say this. Minka will have an interception in this game, though.
Okay. Minka with an interception. So both safeties playing well, it sounds like, in this one.
I think so. And I think you have the opportunity once again for Deontay Johnson to make a huge explosive play in this game over the top.
This defense needs interceptions. Only got 2 of them in 5 games. I mean, who would have guessed that? I know it's luck of the draw sometimes, but yeah, I mean, Minka without 1. So want to see that change for sure.
What's their special team situation like?
They got a good punter. They got Michael Dixon, double punter over there. But even before all that kind of craziness that happened last Thursday, he's been one of the best in football. Draft pick for them. Got a big contract, I think, this offseason or last. And so I'm not sure on the kicker situation, actually. But Dixon is a field flipper, and they're going to need good field position to kind of help out an offense that's entering a new chapter minus Russell Wilson. So Dixon's a weapon for him for sure.
Where would you rank Geno Smith maybe in kind of backup quarterback hierarchy around the league right now? Would you rank him as a better backup quarterback than Mason Rudolph?
I mean, the thing with Geno, like you said, the guy's barely played. He's got like that Jim Sorgi thing going on where he just sat on the bench for like 4 years and threw like 8 passes. I mean, obviously, and Tomlin has talked about this in the past, like when you're a backup quarterback and you're at least kind of mobile, you can kind of make it work just because you can use your legs to run for first downs or keep plays alive. And that's a different element that you have to kind of reckon with as a defense. So, I mean, in that sense, you kind of might want to give Geno the edge, but trying to figure out whose pocket presence is worse. And they're both equally bad, Geno's and Mason's. I think Mason has improved a bit some there. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would probably take Rudolph because I'm a little biased, but Geno just doesn't have the resume right now to even really get to evaluate that too well.
Do you think we'll see maybe some kind of zone read stuff right out of the chute with him just to kind of throw the Steelers off balance here?
Yeah, I mean, they ran it twice when Geno came in last week, despite being down in that game, and Geno kept it once. The upside of that is I think it can work. The downside is if Geno Smith gets hurt, who's your next man up? Right. I don't even know who the 3rd string quarterback or the 2nd string quarterback is for them. So, do you want to risk an injury when you're on your backup quarterback? So I think you might see it in kind of like a 3rd down situations, like a got to have it moment. It's 3rd and 3 in the 4th quarter. You're down by 4, and you got to make a play. So you might see it late in a game or in a big time moment. And
with him and the potential to maybe want to try to force the football, get them in those 3rd and 6, 7, 8 yard situations there. That's most likely when disaster is going to happen for Geno Smith, I think. Yeah, who is a 3rd string quarterback? I don't think they have one. I don't know. They're 53. They're going to have to bring someone up from the practice squad, aren't they? They're going to have to. Yeah, they're going to have a backup. Of some sort. Now I'm just interested in knowing who their theoretical next man up a quarterback would be. Let's see. Do they have another quarterback on
the roster. Danny Etling?
Oh, yeah, they just signed him back, didn't they?
Did they? Okay.
This past week too. So yeah, I would imagine that. No, they have Luton too, don't they?
They have Jake Luton.
Don't they have Jake Luton?
They do have Jake Luton. Yeah, they have Luton. Are they both on the practice squad?
I think they are, and I think Etlin was just signed, if memory. So I would expect maybe Luton to come up this week.
Okay, that's a good call. Who played against Pittsburgh last year, right, or 2 years ago, whatever it was, against Jacksonville.
I believe so.
And they picked him up a couple times in that one. So, yeah, good call on that. So, all right, Dave, covering Seattle, let's switch over to kind of a week 6 at large. Before we make our picks for the week, let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie.
Let's indeed talk about our friends over at MyBookie. And I thought I had my script pulled up here, but I don't.
I think we both are struggling this year with our picks. I think we're both slightly under 500.
By the way, we're both 0-1. Last night there.
We got burned.
Yeah, we did. I thought for sure, boy, I don't know how Philly got back in that game, but they did. What about AB, man? That guy just continues to go on. Now over 900 catches now, too. And at least he thanked Ben Roethlisberger the other day after the game last week after passing the 900 catch barrier there. But that guy's so good about finding dead areas of zones and being kind of the bailout guy on top of everything else.
It was still the quickest on the 900 in NFL history. I think that was what Matthew said. Is that accurate? Right?
I believe that's the stat that's floating around out there.
That's crazy. He's still the quickest to get there despite barely playing for like a year and a half, and he's still got there the fastest than anyone else has. That's kind of crazy.
We talk about who's the next guy to go in the Hall of Fame and all like that, and obviously he's still playing, so it'll be 5 years from whenever he stops. So, but after Roethlisberger, it might be him as the former Steeler that next gets in, right?
Yeah, we've had this discussion before. I mean, it's like Pouncey. Maybe if Pouncey gets in, but it is so tough for those linemen. So yeah, it might be AB.
All right. Let's see. Where you're betting at is just as important as who you're betting on, and that's why I always tell people to put your money down at MyBookie. The Arizona Cardinals have come out to a hot start. The Chiefs have as many losses as they did last year, and with all the overs hitting in the dying seconds of a game, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Thankfully, MyBookie's lock of the season has returned for the Las Vegas Seattle NHL opening night game the other night, and when that's all obviously no longer relevant there. I don't know why it's in the script. It was quite a moment though too. I even went downstairs and flipped the TV on for my wife, and she said, "What are you switching this to ESPN hockey for?" I said, "Because Seattle's opening up their season, an inaugural game, and it was in Vegas against the Golden Knights, and I made her watch the face-off for that." So I said she could thank me 20 years from now when Seattle's celebrating their 20th anniversary, and she could say that she watched the initial puck drop for that. It didn't go over too swell. Take the easy win and use your winnings toward NFL picks in Week 6, which includes a battle between two potential Super Bowl contenders when the Arizona Cardinals meet the Cleveland Browns. And didn't the Cardinals just trade for Zach Ertz this morning?
Yeah, that just came in. It looks like it's Tay Gowan and maybe something else for Zach Ertz, who's now a Cardinal.
All right. So don't miss out on winning season. Head to mybookie.ag and use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE, and you'll get double your first deposit. That's promo code TERRIBLE, so you can double your funds to double your winnings. And they're going to have more of these kind of lock of the season bets. This week, obviously, this show runs after they had this game, but it was Las Vegas, Seattle NHL opening night, where if either team scored in the game, you win. So they're going to go to MyBookie and look for the more lock of the season bets like that they'll have moving forward here. Once again, you use promo code TERRIBLE and you'll get double your first deposit. That's promo code TERRIBLE. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with mybookie.ag.
And the Kraken getting their first win last night, I think it was. So kudos to them. How about NHL on ESPN? There's a phrase you haven't heard since 2003 or whatever it's been.
Yeah, and who was doing the play-by-play by that the other night?
Sean McDonough. Yeah, McDonough wasn't great for that. He was okay, but They need to get Gary Thorne back. Gary Thorne and Doc Emmerich, two of the best hockey commentators I've ever heard of.
You know, Gary Thorne, that's such a blast from the past. When I was a kid growing up, it didn't take long to become Pittsburgh everything. Obviously, Pirates fan, obviously Steelers fan, the Pittsburgh Spirit. I mean, I watched it all. The old Major Indoor Soccer League. They used to show that on the old USA Network, even in Florida where I lived. You know, if you had cable, USA, the old USA Network was key because you would get some of those Major Indoor Soccer League games. You could get Rangers and New York Islanders games, and obviously anytime the Penguins would play, they would be on that. And boy, even way back then, Gary Thorne doing the play-by-play of hockey, and he's still doing it all these years later on top of it there. And
now he's stuck doing Orioles games. Poor Gary Thorne.
Is that what he's doing now?
I think so. Isn't that him? He doesn't need to play by play.
I don't even know. So that's news to me. I haven't heard. I don't think I've. When's the last time he's called a hockey game? You remember?
Yeah, I don't even know. Does he still do it for somebody? Anybody? I don't know his schedule too well, but I know he's stuck doing Orioles games. So poor guy. Anyway, Dave, let's get to our Week 6 pick.
All right, let's get to our picks here. Let me pull them up here on mybookie.ag. Where did it go? NFL. There it is. And we will start with the Miami Dolphins at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars at home, +3 at home against the Dolphins.
You know, I picked Jacksonville to rally and win in spite of Urban Meyer, and I was wrong about that terribly. I'm going to go Miami this week. Tua. Sounds like Tua's going to start on Sunday.
I think there's a possibility that he's back, right?
Yeah, it's not confirmed, but Brian Flores seemed to indicate that Tua's on track to start.
All right, give me Miami lay the 3 points on the road against the Jaguars. Houston Texans on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. And the Colts, they really butchered that game the other night there, letting Baltimore back in that thing. Colts -10 at home against Houston.
Davis Mills, catch the fever. What a game he had last week. This is a game I won't be watching, I'll tell you that much. Give me the Colts, I guess.
I'll take the Colts and lay the big 10 points there. Green Bay Packers on the road against the Chicago Bears. The Bears +6 at home.
Against Green Bay? Yeah, I'm going to go Green Bay in this one. I just think they're one of the more talented teams in football.
I'll take Green Bay and lay the 6 as well, too. Kansas City Chiefs on the road against the Washington football team. Washington at home +6.5.
No, I'm going KC. I know the Chiefs have their problems defensively, but Washington lacks the firepower of Baltimore or Buffalo. And I mean, that Washington secondary has been just travesty. And so I think KC's going to hang like 50.
Yeah, I think the key is that half point in there. I'm with you. Give me the Chiefs lay the 6.5 on the road against Washington. Minnesota Vikings on the road against the Carolina Panthers. I bet this is an interesting game here. Minnesota favored on the road by 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. I think Dalvin Cook's going to come back, and Justin Jefferson's playing well, and so give me Minnesota. I think McCaffrey, it doesn't sound like he's going to be a go in this one.
You know what? Give me the Panthers at home to win this outright. So give me the 2.5 points. I think there's an upset here. The Chargers on the road against the Ravens. Go Chargers! As that's the worst Arnold Schwarzenegger
it was really bad.
imitation. You go Chargers, go! +2.5 on the road against Baltimore.
Oh God, I don't know how good the Chargers' run defense has been this year. Man,
the Ravens' run offense hadn't been all that still, though, right?
Yeah, it's the pass offense though has really picked things up. I'm going to go Baltimore in this one, just being at home. Chargers coming out East Coast.
Chargers in the upset, +2.5. I'll take it. Cincinnati Bengals on the road against the Detroit Lions. Bengals road favorites, 3.5 points.
I'm going to go Detroit. I think 0-5. They've been so close yet so far, getting Dan Campbell his first win as the Lions head coach. I'm going to go Detroit in this one.
I'm going to go with you there. I think they get their first win. I think they upset the Bengals at home. Give me the 3.5 points. Rams on the road against the Giants. Rams laying 10 on the road.
Yeah, Rams going to win big in this one. Daniel Jones, I don't know if he's starting.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't start, but I don't know. But give me the Rams either way.
Yeah, give me the Rams lay the 10 points in this one on the road. Arizona Cardinals on the road against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are favored at home, 3.5 points in this one.
Wow, what a great matchup this could be. I'm going to go with the Browns, though, because that Cardinals' run defense has been really poor, even though they're a 5-0 team. So I think the Browns do pull out the victory.
Man, my heart's in this one. Give me the Cardinals upset the Browns on the road. I'll take the 3.5 points there. The Las Vegas Raiders on the road against the Denver Broncos. Denver at home, favored by 4 in this one. Raiders obviously have a tough week going on here.
They do. I don't know which direction I want to go here. Give me the Raiders in this one. I think they just find a way to rally as a team.
I'm going to go with you on this one. Give me the Raiders plus the 4 points on this. Dallas Cowboys on the road against the New England Patriots. Cowboys 3-point road favorites.
Dallas offense looks really strong this year. I know the Patriots have done okay. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I need Zeke to have a big game in that one. Give me the Cowboys lay the 3 points on the road. That brings us to Buffalo Bills, the Monday night game on the road against the Titans. Boy, the Titans need to pick it up here a little bit, though. They are home dogs, 5.5 points against the Bills.
Being Buffalo, they're a legit team, obviously.
Can you believe the Steelers beat the Bills in week 1?
I think Bills fans are saying the same thing about that. You know what? I think the Titans find a way to cover this one. I just have a gut feeling about it. Give
me the Bills to win big, lay the 5.5 points in that. That brings us to the Seattle Seahawks at the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday night. The line is 5 points. I think it's been this since the start of the week here. So Steelers at home laying 5 points.
Yeah, I think it's must win in the sense of this team really just can't afford to lose it and drop to 2-4 on the season. I think the rushing attack should stay on schedule and continue to succeed the way that it has. And I think just against a backup quarterback with this pass rush and JuJu Smith just kind of looking a little erratic. I got Pittsburgh winning this one 24-13.
I had the Steelers winning this one 23-17, a 6-point difference in this. The over-under on this is 42.5. So if I went 23-17, that would be the over, right?
It's at 40, so you're at the under, aren't you?
Wait, 23 and 17. That'd be the under there. No one told me to be math involved in this one. 23-17. So I would take the under on that and the Steelers to cover just barely by 6 points. I see them giving up some sort of maybe a garbage touchdown in this one. There will be disappointment in Who land if this team finds a way to lose this game. I mean, once again, you look back ahead of this season starting, you say, oh man, I don't know, Seahawks, Russell Wilson, yada yada. That's probably going to be an L. Now you get to the game and you're thinking, man, it would be a big L for the Steelers if they lose this one. So I have them winning, and obviously you have them winning as well.
Yep, and let's hope that's true. Otherwise, this Monday podcast will be a lot worse to talk about. So, all right, Dave, let's get to reader emails and close out today's show.
Oh, I forgot all about those, too. We got a few of those sitting in the email box here. We will start with Kevin Gomez. David Alex, greetings from Sydney, Australia. All right. Have a general football question I've always wanted to know the answer to. I feel as the NFL overvalues picks. For example, what is stopping Kevin Colbert from draft trading 5 first-round picks for Mahomes or someone almost as good, obviously besides the other team agreeing, is the premium of choosing in the top 30 compared to the top 60 that high? I know the question is a bit off topic, but would appreciate if you could educate an Aussie here. So he's basically saying that he thinks like first-round draft picks in particular are kind of overvalued.
I tend to agree. I think we always look at kind of what the guy could be as opposed to what the guy, actually is you're trading for. But there are other things, financial considerations, long-term, how long you might have the guy for, things like that. But I mean, what's stopping a team from doing that? Nothing other than the fact, as the reader pointed out, the team saying no. If you had Patrick Mahomes, would you trade him for 5 first-round picks? No, I would not, because you're just trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes from there. So I get the point there, but it's not easy to it's easy to madden things up a little bit and just say, why not just do X, Y, Z? It's harder in practice.
Except for if you're trading for such good players, obviously the salary cap ramifications and
right.
Not having a first round pick for multiple years in a row would be concerning to some degree. I get the general preface of this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the analytics and all say on this because look, you look at first round. There's no locks, when it could look. I mean, and look where the Steelers got a guy like T.J. Watt later in the first round. Those kind of things there. So, I don't know how to correctly. I don't know how to correctly answer this other than saying that I can see where he would feel that the NFL overvalues picks. Now, when it comes to the Steelers specifically, now they obviously put a lot of value in building through the draft, and you're more apt to find the guy that's going to be a 8, 9, 10-year member of the team in the first round of the draft. I guess I would point back to that first and foremost, but then again, you see the team trading away for a player like Minkah Fitzpatrick. When is the last time that you've seen the Steelers trade away, though, for a guy that was maybe a first-round draft pick that came to them with a heavy contract?
Yeah, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the NFL in general that often. I mean, the concern would be, okay, let's say you trade a bunch of draft picks for like a franchise quarterback. How do you build the rest of your team? Financially, you're going to be restricted because you're paying a franchise quarterback that kind of money. You don't have draft capital to fill other holes. So, like, how do you build the rest of your roster from there? I mean, obviously, the franchise quarterback's the most important, brick in that whole building. But logistically, it might be tough.
I mean, when you get into trading multiple picks away, multiple first-round picks, I think it begins and it ends with a franchise quarterback. I really find it hard to find value in trading away unless it's an edge rusher. What did Bill Parcells always used to say? When it comes to first round draft picks, especially top 15 draft pick, a top 15 overall pick, you're either drafting a quarterback, you're drafting a player that can protect the quarterback, meaning a left tackle back then, or a guy that can get after the quarterback.
Right.
So, multiple first-round picks for back in Joe Thomas' prime, would you have traded multiple first-round picks for a guy like Joe Thomas 6 years into his career?
Probably. Yeah, I generally resonate with the idea of, like, I'd rather have the player than the pick because you're just hoping the player turns out to be the pick, and it's like a roll of the dice if it'll work out or not. But I know it's not always that simple or easy to do.
All right, Kevin, hopefully we kind of answered that as best we could, hypothetically wise. Ashley Bright's back asking, Dave and Alex, thanks for all you do, listeners, since 2010. We see you, Ashley. 2 questions. With the struggles kickers are having this year, thankfully we have Boswell. He is having a great year. What is his contract situation? Second question. This rookie class has to be the most contributing players in a season maybe ever. We have come a long way since Rodney Bailey, 6th-round pick in 2001, special teamer, was the rookie of the year. Who are your top 4 rookies this year in order? He says his are Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, Kendrick Green, Harvin, Moore, Norwood, Loudermilk. I struggled with where Moore should rank as I'm more and more impressed with Moore after each game. Alex and Steelers Depot was mentioned on last week's post-game radio show by Stan with Charlie Batch, which was neat. Okay, I didn't know that. Congrats to both of you on your incredible work there. So, Alex, why don't you get to where would you rank the rookie class as far as contributing?
Rodney Bailey was rookie of the year. I didn't realize that. I know Patrick Bailey was, or for Pittsburgh, the Joe Green Award. But I think
he is. I think he is thinking of Patrick Bailey.
Okay, yeah, I love Patrick Bailey. Great special teamer, number 55. Anyway, sidestepping the question. How would I rank things? Close to that list, I think Harris, Freiermuth. I put Moore ahead of Green though, so I would go Moore, Green. I don't know, Norwood, Harvin, maybe interchangeable, and then like Loudermilk. Something like that.
Loudermilk ahead of Norwood or no?
No, I put Norwood ahead of Loudermilk.
All right, where would you have Moore and Green?
Moore 3rd, Green 4th.
Yeah, I'd be with you on that as well too. Almost right in order the way they were taken. Really, pretty close, except I guess maybe from Green and Moore. As far as Chris Boswell's contractual situation, they obviously, you look at through 2022. He's obviously having a great season this season. There's no reason to think that he won't play out the rest of his contract right now. From where we sit right now, he's scheduled to earn $3.26 million in 2022. Man, he's gotten better. He's like gotten better aged like wine, hasn't he? I mean, he's booming some kicks.
Yeah, maybe they're just letting him do it more. I think Tomlin's kind of getting comfortable with him kicking 50-yarders at Heinz Field because he's hitting them with so much regularity. So, yeah, I think the stat was, someone had tweeted out this week, third highest field goal percentage in NFL history. Obviously, it's like, the recent crowd that's going to get put up there, not the guys from the 70s, but still, yeah, he's been stellar.
We didn't just jinx him for this weekend, did we?
Shoot, you're right. I probably just did. So, sorry, Chris.
Not that I believe in that stuff, but it'll get thrown back at us if he misses a key field goal in this game. Shame on you. $3.26 million in 2022, Ashley. That's the number, and from where we sit right now, hard to see him not getting it. Now, past then, do you extend him next offseason? Probably not, right? You probably get in a situation where maybe you think about franchising him in 2023, maybe. But do you think they would sign him to an extension next offseason?
When's his contract up? 2023?
2022.
Oh, yeah, I think they would. I mean, why would you not? They gave him one extension. I mean, depending on the cost and everything, obviously. But yeah, I would do it.
I mean, he'll be 30 next year.
Right. Well, he's a kicker. I mean,
okay,
that's like 23 in football years.
All right. Let's see. This one from Green 655. Jay from Montana. Questions. Assuming he's healthy, would you take JuJu for $24 million over 3 years with 16 guaranteed? That would be an average yearly value of what, 8? Is that $8 million? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 324
with 16 guaranteed, so you're basically guaranteeing his first 2 years. Man, that's a tough one there. Would you, Alex? 3 for 20?
Would I?
16
yes.
Guaranteed?
Yes, I would. I think, again, the way the Steelers probably need to use him needs to be a little bit different. But from a talent standpoint, assuming that shoulder rehab is fine, which they'll find out by the time he's eligible for free agency, yes, I would.
I don't think you'll see that much guaranteed as much, but if I was making the decision at his age and just, man, it breaks your heart to hear him talking to that luau the other night, doesn't it, man?
Tough. Yeah, for sure.
I just don't. I mean, I get people getting aggravated with maybe the TikToks and all, but I mean that's us old men shaking fist at the sky type of thing, because it's not the way we did it back. You didn't have social media back there. That guy generally loves life. He loves playing football. He likes his social media presence. I don't know what there is that would get people so upset at this dude,
Well, it's the TikTok and stuff, but the people who are mad at that aren't even on TikTok. So, what are you mad about? You're not watching it. So you just see it on Twitter once a week. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt your life for 3 seconds.
Do Chiefs fans get mad at Patrick Mahomes for doing Head and Shoulders and State Farm commercials? I guess.
Yeah, well, that's a traditional way. That's the accepted way because it's very buttoned up and professional.
All right. So I guess the other is considered not that, right?
Right.
But
that's the issue.
And and dancing in the locker room after a win, that's a no, right?
Apparently, yeah. I mean,
I just thought, look, there are a lot of probably guys around the league that you could take issue with that do a lot of things worse than JuJu does, and if his sins are TikTok videos, then sign me up for more than sins, man. Just a good dude. That charity of his, not enough focus on that. Just bought a lady groceries in Giant Eagle, and people trying to frame that as being contrived or whatnot. Whatever, whatever.
It doesn't sound like it was. It was just some guy that tweeted that out. JuJu didn't have a camera or anything like that. So I don't know how anyone could But people knock him for anything. It doesn't matter what he does.
Right.
But I would do the 3 years for 24. I think he takes a 1-year deal though in the offseason and just tries to rebuild his value again.
Jay writes in, why haven't they got far more involved in their game plan? Do you think the potential to be a better receiving tight end than Heath Miller? Well, tight ends are a little bit different than they were back in Heath Miller's game. Now, if there's one potential throwback to it, obviously it would be Freiermuth. That's a question that we're going to get answered, I think, Jay, in these next coming weeks, is how this team, more than anything, I'd like to see this guy used in the red zone a lot more. And I think on third down now that JuJu's out. So why haven't they up until this point? Good question. I think Ben said as much. He's got to do a better job of that. So now we'll see if they will.
Yeah, I think in those big moments, 88's got to be the guy who can step up. And so hopefully we see more involvement, at least in those situations.
He goes on to say, we all know Tuitt is a stud defensive lineman, but with his injury history, is there any chance of interest in trading him for an elite offensive lineman? Man, if you told me that whenever Tuitt gets back, and it does look like it's going to be a week or two after the bye at the earliest now, but if he comes back at the same player as he was last year, or pretty damn close to it, I want that guy back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hypothetical of, what lineman you'd be getting. I mean, it's never going to happen like that, but I'm just focused on the reality of Tuitt, and hopefully this guy gets back as soon as possible because his team could really use the additional, pass rush juice.
Yeah, I'm not trading him. Just an unfortunate thing he's gone through. Michael Gulapo writes in, home versus away jerseys. Too bad we didn't have this one to ask Dr. Mel. Is there any weight in the discussion that wearing the black home jerseys on hot days could make a difference in players cramping and overheating? It sounds stupid, and I personally love watching them in their home jerseys, but is it something to consider in September, October to wear white to stay cooler? Thanks for all that you guys do. I don't know the science and all. I don't know much science. I don't know much English. I struggled in English, Michael. So now you're asking me to play Bill Nye, the science guy here. But I will tell you this. We have seen instances in seasons in the past where early in the season, if the Steelers are on the road, they're made to wear their black home jerseys. Why do teams do this?
Yeah, because the darker jerseys make it hotter.
Attract, heat, all like that. So we think, is there something to that? Does it play into the cramping and overheating? I don't think there. I will boil it back to this once again. Why do teams make the Steelers wear their dark jerseys, especially in southern stadiums, Tennessee, Florida, early in the season? I think that's your answer right there.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. How much of an impact does it make? I don't know, but neither of us are the science people. I have my Bunsen burner I'm trying to light right now, so I'll let you guys know how that goes. I know white after Labor Day is a faux pas. I have no answers here.
There you go. Let's see. Nick Shuley, pronounced Shuley. He says, I know the Steelers didn't spend a ton on his extension with him being around as long as he has. Do you guys think that maybe give Mason Rudolph a shot to win the quarterback one job next season, assuming Ben retires, and maybe use the higher draft picks on other needs like offensive line and cornerback? Much love. Keep up the great work. I don't want to influence Alex here, Nick, so I'm going to let Alex answer this first.
I mean, is Rudolph going to be in the mix next year? Probably. Do I think he's the answer? No, I absolutely do not. I think trying to chase that's kind of a fool's errand. But do they have to draft a quarterback in the first round next year? Not necessarily. If the guy's not there, he's not there, and you can't make it happen. So, I mean, it just depends on a million different variables. Based
on everything that we think that we know right now, which is a dangerous thing to do, and what do you think did we talk about tracking down the Jay Glazer quote? No? Have we talked about that?
We talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it after you found the quote. I think we talked about it as we were talking about trying to find the quote and what Glazer was saying.
All right. Now, you'll do it quicker than me. Set up the context of what Jay Glazer said and then apply it.
Oh man, that's an SAT type of question. I mean, the gist of it, I don't have the quote in front of me, was just basically saying that Jay Glazer had said that Mike Tomlin told him he doesn't want to start a rookie quarterback next season, that he wants a veteran type of guy. And that was the gist of it. And it was some trying to connect, him and Aaron Rodgers, but putting that aside for a second, the meat of it was that Tomlin told Glazer that he does not want a rookie quarterback starting next season.
All right. Not shocking, I don't think. And people will run with that with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson or what have you. My thoughts are, and I know you haven't gone deep in this, and I haven't either. I mean, I watch a lot, a lot of Carson Strong tape, but I have watched a little bit of these other guys. This doesn't come off as the 83 quarterback class. Was that the one?
With Elway and Marino,
yeah,
those guys, or 04. This class it seems to be an average class. It appears
at least scratching the surface on it. It doesn't look to be a great quarterback class. Okay, if I was to say I need your answer right now, as a bet, are the Steelers using a first round pick on a quarterback in 2022? I'm only going to hold you to this if you're wrong.
If I'm wrong. Yeah. No is my answer. If you're making me answer, no, they will not.
That would be my answer as well, too. Now, could they second or third round possible?
I think it'd be a really dumb thing to do. Well, at least once you get into the third round, second round, maybe. But, my standpoint, my mentality is go big, go home on a franchise guy. Your mid-round guy ain't going to do much for you, put you in this weird spot. But I guess it was a higher chance, yes.
All right. From where I sit right now and everything that's out there and Tomlin's view on that, which I buy what Glazer's selling there. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, Glazer knows Tomlin as well as any NFL insider, so I trust that information is accurate. Now, but again, everyone jumped to Aaron Rodgers, but the question is, okay, so what does Tomlin consider Mason Rudolph? Obviously, he's not a rookie. Does he consider him like a veteran type of guy, which he is technically, but obviously the experience is not that, of a 10-year NFL veteran. So where does Rudolph fit in that mold?
Could you see maybe a Mariota, a lower, basically a guy not named Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
Yes, I think it's a lot more likely than Rodgers. We all get focused on the really shiny names, the Rodgers, the Russell Wilsons, the draft pick. But yeah, I think it's more Mariota. I think I've been saying Jacoby Brissett for 6 months now. He's playing okay for Miami right now. I think Brissett worked with Canada at NC State. I could definitely see that happening.
And brought in to compete with the other guys though, or are you bringing those? Are you bringing a guy like Mariota or Brissett in and saying, "We're bringing you in. It's your job"?
Yeah, I don't think they would do that, but I think whoever they signed, if they signed a Mariota or Brissett, would be the leading candidate, but it wouldn't be a slam dunk kind of a thing.
All right, from where you sit right now on the odds, who's the odds-on favorite to be the Week 1, nothing beyond Week 1, Week 1 starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers will be?
I mean, just in terms of the odds alone, if trying to pick one name, it has to be Mason Rudolph.
I agree with you. That's where I'm at on this.
Because who else would it be? In terms unless you're doing Mason Rudolph or what's more likely, Mason Rudolph or the field? Anybody not named Mason Rudolph?
I would still take Mason Rudolph, I think.
Still take Mason Rudolph. Okay. I'm really torn on that one.
Not that's me thinking what will happen.
Right. Which scares me because I don't want Mason Rudolph
to
be the
I think you're staring at in the face with the potential of maybe a guy like Mariota or that non-shiny object backing him up, being right there in case things go wrong.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, your Steelers quarterback next season.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean,
yeah, I wouldn't either. But I think Brissett makes a lot of sense.
What % chance would you put on it being an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? One of those two. I mean, I tell you, and Glazer's comments are not going to help in the fight against that, right?
Neither nor Aaron Rodgers. He keeps making Pittsburgh comments every single time he gets on the megaphone.
Right. I still don't like the chances of that happening, but
Well, what are the odds? Or what are the odds? You asked me the question. I'll ask you.
I would say there's a 30% chance. Maybe.
30? You think it's that high? I think it's 10%.
Yeah. Just because of not knowing how things are going to play out with Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily he'll be a Packer next season, but that doesn't obviously make him a Steeler. So,
but then again, it takes, you get back to the other emailer saying, what do you give up to get a guy like that, and how many years does Rodgers have left? Are you going to give up 2 first-round picks for a guy like Rodgers? What's it going to take? What's it going to take to get him out of Green Bay? What's it going to take money-wise to keep him, and how long can you keep him?
All good questions will be, I'm sure, pouring over in February.
All right. Let me see. I think we got a question from Chuck Griffith on to Dr. Mel. Maybe Dr. Mel will answer this on the Twitter machine. Najee's cramps. I think we already went over that. I remember Najee mentioning prior to the season that he was around 6% body fat. Are players that lean more prone to cramping issues? Thank you for all your contributions to Steelers Depot. That email went out from Chuck to Dr. Mel. Dr. Mel, I'm sure you'll hear this. Get to Chuck on the Twitter machine, maybe. All right. Within that, we're running a little bit long now, and we thank Dr. Mel for being on this show. Alex and I will be back on Monday. Probably not on a lot of sleep, period, but we will be pouring over the Steelers' Sunday night game against the Seattle Seahawks. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. And then also for $25, you can have an ad-free version of the site as well, too. So until Monday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.